Hey guys, we got Mike from Mike's Monitors, and it's Mike Stafani, and he's been doing this for a long time, and we're excited to have him on. We're going to talk some monitor stuff. You guys are going to have to stick around for this one.
How you doing, guys?
Now we're in. All right.
All right.
Well, same as always, and I don't know if you've heard our podcast before. Actually, I know you have because we talked about him at the St. Louis NARBC a couple weeks ago. So you know the intro, man. I want to hear about the early days of Herp, and I want to hear about what got you excited about this, and then I want to hear about what really made you a breeder in the industry.
Okay, well, I guess my story goes probably like most people. Little guy playing with plastic dinosaurs in a puddle in my alley, and when I was old enough to venture out of the alley, I made my way to the river and the ponds. So we'd catch frogs and toads, turtles, garter snakes, and then of course I always want to bring them home. I was never really big on like catching turtles and like keeping them long term. Like I would keep them throughout most of the summer, and then right before fall I'd always let them go. The stuff that I would catch, and partly my mom said it's not fair, and I felt bad for the animals, taking them from the pond. Plus I wanted them to be there next time I went to the pond. So from there, my mom, when I was 5, gave me a Triungus, a 3-toed box turtle. And that's been it. Ever since I was 5, I've had some kind of creepy crawly reptile, fish, bird, pretty much everything but dogs and cats. My mom said no to the dogs and the cats. So anything in a cage.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you were herping when you were young?
Pardon?
So you were herping and doing this like?
Yeah, I come from a town called Franklin Park. It's right next to another town called River Grove. We got the Des Plaines River that runs through the town, numerous ponds and marshes, open fields where we catch garter snakes. Just your typical neighborhood stuff. But yeah, we were always, me and my friends, we were always in it, deep in the mud.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So did you initially start breeding monitors, or was there another species you bred first, and then you slowly transitioned into monitors?
Yeah. This is a crazy story because I actually, as a young guy, I had like the reptile zoo. I had toads and frogs and turtles and tarantulas. I had everything. And, as you get a little older, you kind of get a little more focused. And so I started with, I really love boas. So I love true red tails and like Brazilian rainbows. And I was a Kluber guy for a long time. From there, I kind of focused on the Brazilian rainbows and North American desert rat snakes. So I stayed in that niche for years and years, breeding all that stuff. Then I was working a show, a local reptile show. And, I always would see people who had lizard cages, and there was like, they had plants or a tree branch in there, and there was always crap on it. I'm like, I don't want that, So working at the show, somebody had a peach throat monitor, and they wanted to trade for some tarantula or whatever that I had. And I said, sure, what the heck? The deal was in my favor, so I said, what the heck? I took this peach throat monitor home. And man, oh man, I'm telling you, when I woke up the next morning, I said, man, these things are so cool because, back then in the 70s, it was really like, there was a lot of like Nile monitors and Savannah monitors. You didn't see what you see now. Now you see everything, So when I got this peach throat, I was like, damn, I didn't even know such a cool monitor existed, So I started doing research on the Varanids, and then another guy, I got bitten by the Varanid bug, and I just, I started researching, and at the show. I would do the show every other weekend, I think it was. Get to know people, and one gentleman I knew, he was quite a bit older than me. Again, he wanted something I had, and I'm like, okay, yeah, well, what do you got? He goes, I got a green tree monitor. I'm like, oh, now the inside of me, I'm doing jumping jacks, you know? And I said, tell me a little bit about it. He said, well, he got it when it was the size of an anole, and it's a puppy dog tame. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to come over and check it out. So I go to this guy's house. He's got it in it's a full grown green tree monitor. And it was big. It was in a 29-gallon fish tank with, a fish tank top with the fluorescent light, the flip lid. So I'm like, wow, I don't think that's quite right. But he opened the lid for me. He said, put your hand out there. I put my hand out there. This thing ran right up my arm, and it sat on my shoulder. And I was like, you know what? Here, I think I'll give you 2 spiders for this, because I didn't want the deal to, fall through, and I could care less about trading the spiders for it. So I got this green tree monitor, and I never had a monitor like this ever since. He was so cool. He was like, I called him G Monkey, because he would sit on my shoulder while I could go outside. I do all my reptile work, and he would just sit on my shoulder. So, I had him for years and years. And then I got into some black tree monitors, and of course the peach throats. Me and a friend, we went in on a deal with some wild caught coming eye. Oh, they're so beautiful. But back then, that's all there was wild caught. Yeah. And we got a trio, a 1.2 trio. I built half of my garage was 14 by 8 by 8, big, huge walk-in enclosure. When I hit the garage door opener, the garage door would open, and it was exposed to the south. So sun would just beam in through a hardware cloth half wall I had. They loved it. But there's a big difference between a wild caught and a captive born, because you're talking about a 5-foot monitor that comes from Mindanao, hated people and hated me. And it was a big walk-in enclosure, except you kind of had a 4-foot knee wall with a sliding glass window. So I'd slide the glass open. We'd go in there and mess around. And well, after, a few months, they started getting used to the noises and the sounds and when we were coming and going. And they're smart animals, real smart animals. So one time I went in there, and my buddy JC, he was my partner in it. And I said, I was doing something with the water tub I had. The drain was clogged or something. I'm like, hey, you watch that log right there. If you see anything moving around that log, let me know, because this animal wanted to kill me. It was a big 5-foot male. So he's like, hey, I think it's coming. And I turned, as soon as I looked up, I seen my buddy JC. He was out the window head first. And now this big coming eye was between me and the window. This was when I was younger. I was much more agile. I'm not so much agile now. So I took a step towards him. He took a step towards me and just came at me with his mouth agape. And I dove over him out the window, and man, what an experience. But yeah, the wild caught animals are a lot different than captive borns. That animal wanted to legitimately kill me.
It is. Were you? Did you ever have any success breeding the wild caught that you had?
Well, I did breed my black trees, and those were wild caught, of course. And then one time, G Monkey, the green tree monitor, I looked for females, and I got a couple males that, it was hard back then. There wasn't a lot known about these animals. So it was kind of tough to tell if you had a male and a female. So I put a couple of males in with him. That turns out they were just 2 males together. So one day when I was cleaning out my black tree monitors, G Monkey was on my shoulder, and I was like, hey, go in there, man. Just check it out. So he jumped off my shoulder and went into the black tree cage. And as soon as he jumped off my shoulder and went in there with that female, there was 2 females in there, but he nailed her. And, I separated them like, I don't know, after an hour or so. When I was done cleaning, I separated them. Then I noticed my females, the one female started getting really swole. So I was like, this was, 30 days later, something like that. And so I'm like, could it be? Could it be a cross? Was it possible? Of course, back then people speculated, yeah, it can be done. No, it can't be done. So I just, these eggs incubate for a very long time. So I wasn't sure. But when this clutch hatched, they hatched out green from my black tree female. So I know he got in there and he got it. So, I hatched out like 2 or 3 of those clutches, like I said. And after that was it, because I caught so much heat, and of course, I get it. I get it now. I didn't get it then because it was just me and my few animals, but I get it now with like the 3-way cross Gould eye complex monitors. Flavorufus is such a beautiful animal, and they have been crossbred, 3 different ways for so long that you don't know if you have a pure Flavorufus or not, So I understand the complications that you get with it,
Yeah.
Oh, and I bred my peach throats too. I got like I had my original pair. Man, they were like clockwork. Every 3 months, I'd get 3 egg clutches, and I hatched a bunch of them, sold some, held on to some. Then we had me and my family. I have a big family. I have 8 kids. We moved. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So good.
Crazy.
Sorry.
No, it's great now. Now that they're all older, it's much better than when they were young. So, yeah. So I was injured on the job, and I had to, get rid of my collection for a while there. But I stayed home with my kids and raised them. And I'm telling you something right now, that housewife, toughest job in the world, man. It never ends. There's no thanks to it, and you're never good enough. So then once the kids all got grown up and stuff, then I got back into my animals. So
yeah. Well, that's cool. That's a good story, man. And when you got back in, what did you go right for monitors? What did you go right back after?
Yeah, no, I went right back into monitors. I started with another trio of peach throat monitors. Then where did I go from there? From there, I got some captive born coming eye, which was, I had known the way the wild caughts were. So I got the captive borns knowing, they're a lot different than wild caughts. But man, I'll tell you, these coming eye were nothing like my wild caughts. Mine will crawl up my arms. They eat out of my hands. They're just super cool animals,
Yeah, we try to tell people that all the time. Dave and I, we both breed blue tongue skinks, and people come to us, and we'll be at a show, even in St. Louis. People come up to us and came up to me and were like, "Hey, this is a really nice northern you got. I see it's $350. There's one for 180 around the corner." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that one's wild caught." And they're like, "Well, the guy's saying it's not."
Yeah.
Like, okay. And we try to tell people the differences, but people don't want to hear that usually. So, like, what is your soapbox for doing wild caught compared to captive bred?
Well, number one is because I've done this myself. Back in the day, there were no captive born. Some Australian stuff was captive, but I never really was interested in the Australian stuff, just the New Guinea stuff. Yeah. So I always tell people, look, by the time you panicure, flagell, whatever else you may have to do to get this animal into just a decent shape. You know what I mean? I'm not talking top quality, not breeding quality, nothing. Just just, you know, on its way to becoming healthy. The money you spend doing that, and you still hold the chance of that animal dying, because psychologically, people don't think like that. Psychologically, this animal knows no boundaries. It knows, a certain day and night cycle, smells and sounds. Now you're bringing them into captivity, and it's a whole new thing. I mean, it's just like the best way I could describe it is like you're free your whole life, right? You do something stupid, they throw you in jail. Well, now you got to get used to that, and it ain't what you're used to. So I always tell people, you spend the money on a captive born, they're going to breed for you. They're not going to be fearful of you. As a matter of fact, with some real short-term, trust issues that you work on with your animals, they become as cool as a dog or a cat. They'll just come to you. They have their moods. They get a little mad sometimes. They get angry, and but for the most part, they're not that scared, flighty, wild caught animal that doesn't like the hairless monkeys.
Yeah.
So what monitor species do you not work with that you still would like to get into after doing this for years?
Oh, well, I'd like to get Spencer. That would be real nice.
Yeah.
But lately I've been getting into the Australian stuff a little more now.
I'll just say some Kimberly rocks. Come on.
You know what? I just got me some Kimberly rocks.
They're so cool.
They are the coolest, man. Yeah. And the ones I got are like, I don't know, a couple weeks old hatchlings. And
oh
man, I'm not used to that stuff. I mean, these things are so small. Their head structure is so different than any other monitor I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
If they can get their head, like just about like anything else, if they can get their head in there, that they can get out. But these things, they got no height to their head. It's straight flat, and it's pretty narrow. So the tiniest little holes, man, they're gone. I had to put weather stripping on this cage I had all set up for them. And when I got them, I was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. So me and my son took about an hour and a half to weather strip all the seams. And so, but now they wound up back into the Exoterra or Zilla, whatever, the small little front opening cage.
Until they get a little size on them, right?
Yeah. And then I'll go into one of my custom cages. I'll do a nice zoopoxy, like rocky outcropping with some dead logs and, some grass type plants.
Yeah, man.
Now, do you keep your collection at your house? Because I imagine some of these enclosures are probably taking up a little bit of space.
Yeah, I live on the border of Illinois and Wisconsin. We got a big basement, and I got about a third of the basement right now. And hey, I'm working on the rest of it. I can't say that. The old lady, she'll brain me out here.
Hopefully she doesn't watch this.
Yeah, probably will. That's a good way to segue into it, though.
Yeah.
Getting the shit kicked out of you?
What's that?
Oh, I said getting the shit kicked out of you after she watches your podcast?
Yeah, you're right.
So I don't want to take away from, what other monitor species you're really wanting to work with, but I do want to get into the enclosures at some point. I mean, obviously we got to talk about that with you, but have you ever gotten into, what do you think of the Bell Phase lace monitors?
I love them
right now.
Yeah, I love them. Don't get me wrong. The only problem is, it's a very large monitor.
They get big.
Yeah, they get big. They need a lot of space. And, Brian Waterloo, he's a neighbor of mine. He lives right up here, and he breeds them. He does real good with them. Burl Walters has them. Some other people that I know, another guy, Kyle, that lives real close to me.
Yeah,
they have them. And, man, I just see and hear all the stuff about how messy they are. And, I kind of worked out a formula with all of my monitors, because people ask me all the time, what kind of filter would you use with your coming eye? I'm like, you wouldn't. You don't want to use a filter with a coming eye because they, or peach throats, so they crap in their water. And, unless you got some kind of, I mean, I don't know. I've been doing fish and reptiles my whole life. And, aside from maybe taking a couple of 55-gallon drums and making your own filtration plant, literally, I wouldn't use it. What I do is I give them a large water basin, and I have drains on everything. I do it once a day. They crap in their water. I undo the drain. It goes right to my sub pump, spray it out, put a little Nova Sand in there, rinse that out, fill it back up till tomorrow.
Wow.
So now when I did get my Mertens, I never had Mertens before, and not a real lot has known about them, up until like nowadays. And so I didn't know if they were water poopers or, what. So I came up with this design for a beautiful, I think you guys seen my enclosure, right?
Yeah. The one
like
with the barrel?
Yeah, no, the big one with the 300-gallon water feature.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, now,
if I can find it.
Because it's a big, of course, the Mertens, they do a lot of their business in the water. And when I mean business, I don't mean going to the bathroom. They eat in the water, they breed in the water. They'll breed on land too, but they do a lot of cool stuff in the water. So if you give a Mertens monitor, like an enclosure with, even a big horse trough for water, that's great. But man, you're cheating yourself and your monitors, because the behaviors that you see, if you have a nice water feature with a viewing window underwater, man, they can't be beat. They're like scaled otters. That's what me and a couple buddies like to talk about, call them. Yeah, they do so much underwater. It's so cool. They spend a lot of time in the water. And yeah, so if you keep them just like you would any other monitor, and you're cheating your animals because they really love the water, and you're cheating yourself, man, out of the great, all the cool behaviors that you can witness through a window.
Yeah. Maybe let me see if I can pull up a picture of that real quick. I think I have one. If this is the right one. Let's see.
Yep, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
Can we make that bigger?
I think I can. Oh,
there you go.
Maybe not too much bigger.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. That's my king there.
So, yeah, there's a feature here that's, you can see below. There's a window. So,
yeah.
So how did you come up with that? Like what? I mean,
well,
let's talk enclosures, because I want to get into some detail. Talk to me. Let's do a little step by step where you tell us if somebody wanted to get into building their enclosure, what's a good size, they should start with, and a good feature that they should start with, and then what's like down the road, like your expert level. What does it take?
Okay, well, let's we want to go with the Mertens since we're kind of on that subject.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, basically, when you're dealing with varanids, they all need a really deep, moist substrate. So, moist dirt against wood. I don't care if you use FRP. It's kind of tough because, the moist dirt just destroys wood.
Yep.
So, after all the years, I've made them out of bathtub enclosures, and which is it's a really great setup. If you could get a one-piece bathtub unit from like Home Depot or something, indestructible. And
that's a great idea.
Yeah, I got some of them on my website too. You could check them out that I used to breed my tree monitors in. Yeah, it's a great setup. You can hold dirt or water, and it's a fiberglass bathtub with gel coat on it, and they never rot. They don't scratch. And then you could put brown silicone on the walls, and then press orchid mulch into it, so that makes it all climbable. So you triple your surface area. It's really really cool things that you can do. But so getting back to the basics, it's like I said, you got most alvaranids need a lot of deep, moist substrate. So, I've done the horse troughs, all of that, which, horse troughs are good when you do that. But people used to use the horse troughs and then put like a top on the trough. Well, I needed more than that. I couldn't do that to myself or my animals. So I would use the horse trough as a base, and I built a cage above it. Mm-hmm. And because they're kind of like a racetrack shaped, so you got to turn that racetrack shaped horse trough into a rectangular enclosure, which, it works and everything. It's kind of unsightly, but hey, if whatever works. Yeah. So when I got back into it, my wife here, her family owns a tropical fish wholesaler, sell all pet shop fish and stuff.
That's a match made in heaven, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I've known Karen for like 30 plus years. We used to date. I got married. I had a bunch of kids, got divorced, and we kindled again. And that's where I'm at today. So, in talking it over with her, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to get some horse troughs. She goes, horse troughs? She goes, how about this? And then pulled it up on one of her catalogs or something. It's Hagen Laguna tubs. I believe they're for like koi people, koi breeders.
Sure.
Yeah, right. And they're really super strong and they're durable. So I made a few for my coming eye. I made them for my peach throats, my albigularis. And this was before I had the Mertens. So I had an extra tub. I had an extra 300-gallon tub and an extra 70-gallon tub. So I put it off in the back of the basement. I put the 70-gallon tub on top of the 300-gallon tub. I was like, damn, that'd be a great looking enclosure. So that's how that design started. Then when I got my first pair of Mertens monitors, I'm like, I gotta put a window in this thing. She's like, oh, you're not gonna, you'll never do it. You know what? I'm the kind of guy. You tell me I can't do it, I'm gonna do it. So her and other people told me, yeah, you'll never get it sealed. You'll never get it sealed. Well, I've been homemaking my stuff. Don't come from money. So, when I would find a TV set, the old console TVs in the garbage, you'd see this short, fat little kid riding his BMX bike with the TV on his shoulder. I'd take it home. I'd bust the tube out and put some plexiglass on the front, and I'd make a boa cage or whatever. So I've always been kind of creative with that. And like I say, I just always loved nature and looking at nature, trees, vines. And so that's kind of my whole MO too. So well, I took this 300-gallon tub, and when you cut a hole in a koi tub, you ain't getting your money back. Yeah. So oh man, I got to make this work. So I cut the window in it, and I just figured what I'm going to do is I'll silicone the crap out of it, and I'll bolt through the tub and the plexiglass and hold it in place. Yeah. Well, I'm the kind of guy, I always do the research when I'm done, which I learned a lesson, but I didn't ruin the tub. What I did was I bought a piece of Lexan and drilled all the bolt holes in it, screwed them in place, put the silicone on, started filling it up. And my daughter Sarah comes, it was like 3/4 of the way full. And my kids are always joking with me. I don't know where they get that from, but they're always messing with me. She goes, Dad, there's a crack in the window. I'm like, what? So I'm kind of halfway thinking, yeah, I'm going to get down there. They're all going to be laughing at me. So I get down there and I notice there's these tiny little micro cracks. So I cut the water off right away, drained it, and then I started looking into the Lexan. And everything that I read on the website about Lexan is you need some high-speed drill, otherwise you cause these micro cracks. So I caused the micro cracks, then the pressure of the water they were spider webbing, and man, I was probably minutes away from blowing 300 gallons of water in my basement. So I undid that, and I'm like, oh man, now what am I gonna do? I gotta make this work, because otherwise I'm gonna hear, oh, I told you. So what I did was I said, okay, I'm not gonna drill the Lexan, and I got a bigger piece that sat on the bottom of the tub. So it went from the bottom to the top, almost end to end. And I silicone the crap out of it. Then I took a couple 2x4s and I made like a T-wedge. And I wedged the glass in with enough pressure that mimicked 300 gallons of water or thereabouts. Nothing's perfect. So when I wedged it in there, this other product that I sell and work with, Zoopoxy, it's a 2-part epoxy, and when it's cured, I mean, tiger nails, hawk nails, monitor nails, nothing really can penetrate it depending on how thick you use it. So what I did was I went around the edge of the glass with a really heavy layer of this Zoopoxy, and I woke up the next morning and it was in place. I took my T-thing out of there. Everything held, and then I started building the rest of the cage with the Zoopoxy.
Wow. So you just glued it in.
I glued it with silicone, Zoopoxy, which is a 2-part epoxy, and probably a year after that was going, I got a little tiny pin leak in the Zoopoxy area. I must have went too thin, Yeah. So I drained it, and I got this other epoxy from West Systems Epoxy, which is like a marine, like for repairing boats and stuff.
Yeah. So
I put a little couple of straps of fiberglass around the frame of the window and painted that G-Flex epoxy on there, and it's been going great ever since. Almost 3 years now, almost 4 years, something like that.
I love you.
Love you too, Lex. Sorry about that, guys.
No, it's good. No, it's awesome. So what's that? It seems crazy to me. Whenever I see any of those big enclosures that are holding a lot of water, it always is like, it's so impressive to me that it is actually working. And I have a friend who has in North Jersey, where I'm from South Jersey. I know I bring it up like every episode, but I have a friend that he has like it's kind of like a zoo it's a little place that people can go and they can hold a bunch of different animals. There's a bunch of reptiles. But and New Jersey, North Jersey, it's been real bad with this whole pandemic. So I went up there recently and just to see how he's doing, and everything has to be closed down, so he couldn't have people in and all that. And he had this enclosure that was empty. And we don't mind if you smoke on it.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, it's after hours, after dark. We're not worried about anything on this one.
Okay.
So, but he had this big enclosure with this huge window. So it had to be maybe 3 inches thick of like a plexiglass or something window, and it was 5 feet wide by 4 feet tall, and it looked like rocks around it, right? And the whole thing was empty. And I'm like, why do you have that empty? He goes, well, he had this nice enclosure. It was filled up with water. He had all this stuff in it. It was going great. And somebody said it should look more realistic. So he drained the water. He put up a rock wall, like made it look like rock. And when he did it, he took the front window out, put up this rock stuff, and then put the window back. And he could never seal it again. And
really,
he could never get it to stop leaking.
I bet you I could seal that thing.
Yeah, he's like, he said he spent like 30 grand on this thing, and he couldn't get it.
That's crazy, because man, if I had 30 grand, I'd have a bunch of them, because I'm kind of like a cheapskate. Not really a cheapskate, but I just figure out ways to, I guess, do it at what I'm used to. You know what I mean? I like I said, I couldn't afford all the nice cages, so I took old furniture that I found. And through doing that, at a young age, I learned all kinds of little tricks and things. But yeah, tell your buddy to look at some Zoopoxy and West Systems epoxy.
Yeah.
It's miracle stuff. Yeah.
I definitely will. So if you had a couple tips to give to somebody of like the things you did, you said, man, I really learned a lesson here. What would you say?
Well, number one is, you need to, when you're working with veranids, especially like New Guinea stuff, that's really high humidity, you got to take care of your wood. You got to seal your wood. And through doing that, spending a lot of money on different kinds of garage floor epoxy paints, which I still use. It's pretty inexpensive and it works well. I guess the key is that with the deep substrate, I don't even use wood anymore on the substrate area. I go with, horse troughs or polycarbonate tubs or fiberglass tubs. That saves you a lot of time and money in the long run because, right when you get your monitors and whatever, say you raise them for a couple, 3 years and you start getting things that are starting to breed and stuff. Well, when they start digging down in that moist dirt up against a wooden wall that's moist, they can dig right through it. Yeah. So that's probably the best thing I could tell people is, I don't do wood at the dirt level and below.
That's a good.
Are you offering? I mean, I should know this already, but I don't. Do you offer cages to people? Are you going out and doing custom jobs for people, or is this all just for your hobby?
It's what, man. I have a couple young sons, and if they're in to doing this stuff, then I'd be in. But I did concrete for 30 years. My body's pretty broke down. I know. Ben's seen me walking around the show there, or if you call it walking.
Yeah, that's why I was laughing so hard. I couldn't picture you diving over any monitors out a window.
Not no more. Not no more. Now they're gonna get me.
Yeah.
But my sons, I just like anything else. Would you guys have kids? You try to teach them stuff. So I'm teaching my sons how to use the Zoopoxy. They're real good with the Zoopoxy, and of course, they pick up on my, frugalness on how to, do things in a cheaper way or less expensive way. But with these new barrels that I've been doing for my, table displays to sell my babies at, I've had a lot of people ask. And again, it takes time and it's, I don't know how to say it. It's like everyone is its own. Everyone is custom. Like you can't just slap 10 of them together and they're going to come out the same. Everything's different. You have creative differences in the setups or whatever. And like a few with the water features that I have, like the river tank, when I made that one, first shot, no leaks, no nothing. The tall barrel, when I came 600 miles to that show and I was just, can we swear?
Yeah.
No, swear away, buddy.
Okay. I was shitting in my pants the whole way thinking, man, my creations are being jostled around in the back of a trailer. And, I wasn't sure if they were going to be in a million pieces when I got there, if they were going to leak. So I got them there. And, I had a friend of one of my kids who lives there meet me and help me, pick everything up because it's kind of heavy. Filled them up with water, and I had one little pin leak in the tall barrel, the Mike's Monitors one. Mm-hmm. So I started with the silicone, and I put a little bit, and the leak went over there. So I had to go back and forth till I got the leak stopped. Now I got the leak stopped, but you're worried, so I'm just waiting or thinking what's going to happen. And all of a sudden I hear, everybody out of the hall now. The show will be closing. And I'm like, oh, I got fish in there. I got water in there, and they're telling me to get out of here. I mean, I could have sat there quiet by myself all night and just looked at that leak until I figured it out. So I didn't sleep at all that night. That first night.
They were real strict about that, letting you go back in.
Yeah, I didn't even attempt. So I went upstairs, me and Karen, and I was trying to go to sleep. I didn't sleep at all, and I'm just thinking, I got to get down there. If I go down there and the barrel is empty and my fish are dead or flopping around, I don't know, what the hell am I going to do? How embarrassing, right? So they all held up. The next day I had to do a little more work on the leak. But, everything worked out good, and it didn't leak through the show, so it was all good. Yeah, I get it back home, set it up, boom. Now I got another leak, so I had to fix it. I just fixed it today, so.
That's funny. Well,
yeah, but that's what I mean about it. I mean, like people say, well, how much? It's like there's really not a set price. And if you want a water feature like that in there, it's not like I'm going to give it to you and it's going to be done. If I give it to you, of course I would water test it, but just moving it, from my house to their house or a restaurant or wherever the case may be, it's most likely going to need some type of attention. So, I mean, they would be pretty expensive. I have had people ask me, but I haven't yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But yeah, I appreciate that question.
Yeah, no, I was curious because honestly, when I walked by your table at the show and I was looking at them, I made the assumption right away that those are probably displays for stuff that you create and are selling on the regular. So, good to know. I'm not going to ask you shit now.
No. Hey, if you want something, let me know. We'll work it out.
Yeah.
And where are you at, Dave?
I'm about 2 to 2.5 hours south of the St. Louis show in Missouri.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were told me that. Okay.
Yeah, not too far away, a little below there, but I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, so I know the whole region.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm aware. But one thing that's kind of crazy to me, I can't believe how many people that own these rare monitors are your neighbors. Like, people with similar interests in the same neighbor. That's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah,
like, did one of you guys convince the other guy to do it, or is that just happen to be in the same place?
Yeah, I think I don't know. Like Brian Waterloo, he's literally, I don't know, about an hour away from me, and he's been a lifer too, like me. He's been in it since we were kids, and I've known him that long through going through shows and stuff. We know a few mutual people from a town he grew up in. But yeah, it is pretty crazy that up this way there's quite a few different monitor people.
Yeah, it's wild, man. And so back in the day, you were talking about doing shows based on your region. What shows were you doing way back in the day? Ohio shows, or what was going on back then? No,
dude, I'm talking local, like right here in a little south of me where I'm at now. But it was Illinois. As a matter of fact, you had him on just a couple shows ago. Tiny Scott Smith.
Tiny shows.
Yeah, Tiny shows used to be a guy named Lee Watson.
Yep.
Who did them in his barn on his property. So that's how far back I'm talking. Like before Scott got that show from Lee, I don't even know what year it was. It was a long time ago. Long time ago.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So, working with a lot of different kind of a lot of different species of monitors in one environment. So what are you doing to cycle your animals every year for breeding? Because I assume everyone's going to need something a little different.
Yes, everyone's going to need something a little bit different. And what I do is I tell people this all the time. People say, "Oh, well, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, where do you live, man?" They go, "Well, I'm in Laredo, Texas." I'm like, "Well, what I'm doing, you ain't going to do. You need to." I use the seasons here, like to my advantage with the animals. Like, of course, I keep my stuff in the basement. So in the wintertime, we got the heat on. We got a wood stove that we use. But so my house is quite a bit warmer, even the basement, that I cut back on my room heaters. Now in the wintertime, when we got the central air going, my basement is like a freaking morgue. So I cranked the heaters up down there, little space heater, oil heaters. And I use the seasons like to my advantage as far as raising and lowering temperatures.
Okay.
And of course that's regional. So, someone who lives in, like I said, whatever, New Mexico or Texas, I wouldn't even, I would have to be there to figure it out, or they would have to be here. It wouldn't work.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I say that to a lot of people. Any species that you cool down, any species like the Florida guys with some of their stuff that need to get it in the 60s. That's not going to happen in Florida unless you have an air conditioned room. So,
Right.
they get it down as cool as they can, and they find a way to be successful. But again, what they're doing is not going to work for me and you.
Right. Exactly. And that's one frustrating thing. And I've been paying attention to monitors for so long that I'm not really, familiar with, all the other species I used to work with. But the North American colubrids was pretty much the same way, in the basement, wintertime. But wintertime for them was that I'd put them down, because also, I have windows in my basement, so they get a light cycle in there too that could throw them off. So I've learned to use all of that, temperatures and light cycles, natural light cycles, to my advantage somewhat. But basically what I do is I keep my monitor room at like in the summertime, I keep it at like 84 degrees. And then in the wintertime, I might keep it at like 82 degrees, 80 degrees, because of course, we're down in the basement, it gets a little cooler. But so yeah, I mean, and as far as cycling them, temperatures, light cycles, and humidity levels, rain, really, like for the New Guinea stuff, really sets them off. Like I remember back when I had my tree monitors in a garage in DeKalb, as soon as the spring would come and we'd get all them spring storms, I'd open the windows, and because I used those bathtub enclosures, I was able to turn the hose on, literally a hose, and hose them down with the spray end of the hose. And that really sets them off when you give them a good long wet, not even a misting. It was literally like being rained on a couple, 3 times a day, heavy.
Okay, never really thought to put maybe a pump system on your shower and just keep the shower head in there on your enclosures?
Yeah, I guess you could do that, but I don't know. I'm used to, with this computer stuff. I'm not good with the technology, and a few long time ago, they did have like a timer, like for lights for water.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is, as soon as you used warm water in those timers, for some reason, they burnt out. So, after a while, I was using them, and I was like, something ain't right here. And I'd put my hand in the automatic sprinkler that was, it was directly to my sink, right to the tap with, warm water. And I'd put my hand under there, and the water was cold. So something that was back then, that was a long time ago. I don't know if they make them better now or what, but for some reason, the automated, I don't know, for lack of knowing what they really are called, like a timer, but for a water, they just didn't work right, and the water always came out cold. So I did away with it, and I just like doing it because I stand in front of them. I usually tongue feed everything I have, so I'm like really on top of with my animals with the misting and the feeding. I don't want to do nothing too automated,
Understandable. Hands-on is never a bad thing. Ben, you got something, man? Your mouth's flapping away over there, but nothing's happened.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, how do you so you said that tongue feeding, and that's something I'm interested in. Like, what do you feed your peach throats per se? What do you feed them? How do you get them started as babies? Like, you want to go through some of the 101 stuff for monitors?
Yeah, sure. For the most part, most all Varanids, when they're young, they're highly insectivorous. So, a lot of roaches, crickets, which are a pain in the butt. I don't really like using too many crickets. They get out of your room and they drive you crazy chirping. So I use a lot of roaches. And as they move up from there, I'll go to like chopped pinkies and roaches. And something I've been doing for the last few years is lots and lots of quails, day-old quails out of the egg, quails, like kind of the balut still in the egg. The embryo is developed in the egg, and then I take scissors if the animals are too small, like my Glauerdi, the Kimberly rocks. Yeah. Right now, I'm scissor chopping pinkies and day-old quails and lots of bugs. So that's what I do, and I do try to get them when they're young. Just like when they're in the wild, when they're young, they're prey for everything. Frogs eat them, birds, even bugs will eat them. So that's when their body is designed to really put on some size, because once they get to a certain size, maybe a foot and a half, they're no longer, they're still being preyed upon, but they're doing a lot of, preying themselves. So they and myself and most people, you would think, want to get them, to that size where they're not as fearful that they're going to be eaten. So, and their bodies are designed to grow really quick during that stage. So a lot of calcium and vitamins to support, bone growth and, their eyes and their brain development. And and then once they get a little bit bigger like that, my males, what I'll do is I'll feed them probably a third of what I feed my females. I keep my males nice and lean, that lateral fold along their belly on their side. Because a big fat monitor he's not, they like to do a lot of basking. They don't look around for that good stuff. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And then for the females, when they hit maturity, if you keep pumping them with food, they turn all that extra energy into egg production, and and then you start getting eggs, and hopefully you get good fertile eggs. I mean, a lot of things go wrong. Even now, I just had my female coming. I laid her third clutch, 11 eggs, and they all look beautiful when she laid them. And it looks like a couple of them may go bad. I'm not real sure yet. They're still pretty fresh, but yeah, things happen. We're working with live animals, and
yep.
You could put all that money and time into an animal, and whatever they get gout, or they get fatty liver, or whatever the case may be. So working with animals, that's how it is.
Yeah. Do you ever?
Things out of your control.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever use fish? Feed fish?
Yeah, I do. My Mertens, when raising them up, I hatched this in 2020, and I got a clutch that they're due to hatch. That they might be hatching now. I feed them. I start them all on chopped fish, chopped silver sides. And believe me, when those things come out, I give them. It's almost like, I don't know, kind of like a paste. That's how small I chop it. It's still chunky, but it's really like almost like a paste. And literally in a couple of weeks, they're eating chunks of fish and then whole fish. I have some that I hatched out in February now that start taking mice. So yeah, they grow to that spot. They grow to about, I think I got some that are probably about 10, 12 inches, and they got that way in 6 months.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's real cool. Do you have more, Dave, or you want me to keep going? I can keep going.
Hey, keep on going, bud. I'll do good next time, man. Have some fun. Keep going.
So there's so many. I really like monitors, and when you see them and people are like checking them out and all that, like, it's one thing, and you're seeing them at shows and stuff. It's one thing, but when you actually get to hold your first one and it like looks at you and you can tell like it knows, like it's thinking something. They're just so cool. They're so cool.
Yeah, they're highly intelligent. There's another the first clutch of Mertens that I ever hatched. I caught one. It's just started pipping, so I cut a window. I pretty much cut half of the egg open, and that little sucker's in there, and me and my son are looking at it in amazement, and its eyeball is just you can see its eye moving. You know, when my son says something to me, it looks at him, and when I say something, it looks at me. That's on my webpage too. You can actually see that thing. You know, it's taking its first breath of air, and it's already thinking, "What the heck?" You know.
Yeah.
I wish you would have come over. I would have let you hold one.
Yeah, man, I would love to. I can pull up that picture real quick. But yeah, it's a cool picture.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like, I gotta get this, man. And then I took a short video of it and a picture. That's it right there.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's still, all in the egg and it's just looking at you. That's pretty cool.
Yep. I hatched out. Well, to date, I think I hatched out 30. I did hatch out 36 Mertens babies this year. Plus, there's another, I think, 14 in the incubator ready to go. So
that's so cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Okay. No, wait. Fuck off. I'm doing something. So, one thing that I always really loved years ago was the videos with Kevin McCurley as he's hatching out Nile monitors and water monitors. Just he was always super active isn't what I'm looking for. Interactive with the animals as they were hatching. Really, in his opinion, getting them very used to human contact. Making that their first experience. With these monitor species that you're working with, are you similar, hands-on, right off the bat to get them used to it, or is it a gradual process for you?
No, I definitely, right out of the egg, I take them from when they're starting to pip and hatch in the egg box. They have been hatching at, some of them at 262 days, some of them at, 240 days. So I don't want to have them scrambling around rolling eggs. So as soon as they pip, what I do is I put them in another incubation, an egg container without the grid. I put them in there with some wet paper towel or hey, excuse me. A little bit of water, and I'll leave them in there for 3-4 days in the incubator, checking on them every day. And, I'll go in there and mess with them a little bit, take them out, rinse them. But yeah, definitely. I'm not big psychologist, reptile guy like Kevin, but I do believe that you can imprint on lizards out of the egg.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
How much do you work with them, to make sure that they stay hand tame?
Well, what I do is when, they're like, you guys know, they're like your baby. So you want the best for them. So I pretty much hand feed them from the get-go, right? From their first, feeding. I'll put chopped fish on a spoon and I'll pass it to them. And, that used to be a real nice thing. But now, 5 or 6 of them will jump out of the cage at me and knock the spoon out of my hand. So yeah, I hand feed them, always quiet around them. No fast movements. Once you build a trust with them, you can break that trust if you do something stupid. But for the most part, people always, they're like, oh, what do you do? And there's, I don't really believe there's a formula because everybody's different. Some people are loud, some people are, soft and squeaky. And so what I do is I just rely on trust. I don't do nothing that would scare them. I never approach them from above. I always approach them, at their eye level. And that really helps, because again, when they're a little baby lizard, everything's coming at them from above, trying to eat them. So try to avoid that stuff. And, not do nothing to spook them.
And do you do that every day? Like you have to handle them every day, or is it you could handle them once a week? Like what's the?
Well, I hand feed them pretty much every day. Now that they're like 7, 8 months old, they don't get fed every day. But yeah, I'll reach in there and pull them out and just look at them, observe them, hold them for a short period of time, before they get nervous or, see, that's the thing. A lot of people will, they force themselves on these animals. It's what it's best to do is, you hold them and, 10 minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes. And at the end of that, it's time to put them back because you're pushing the boundaries. And then, you don't want them to get spooked of you.
Yeah. 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 That's one of the things. I mean, one day I will get a monitor one day. I just, I know that it really does take that dedication that every single day you're like doing something with them.
Yes, definitely.
We keep Dave and I both, and Ryan, we keep a lot of snakes as well. So you don't have to mess with the snakes every day, like each snake every day. But when you have a lot of them, it takes a lot of time to do anything.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But monitors, yeah, I would say monitors it's not like snakes are nice because, you could go away for a few days. You know what I mean? Monitors, if I'm leaving, that's why I train my sons up, because when I'm gone, they're the ones down here taking care of everything. They pretty much do need attention every day. I mean, if it ain't a dirty water bowl, it's a feeding. If it's not a feeding, you got light bulbs to change. So yeah, they're constant work.
Yeah. And it's just like a dog or a cat, though. I mean, really, you gotta manage your pets, whatever kind of pet you have. So
absolutely.
So when we first were starting the podcast, before we actually got started, you started to say that kind of your ideas of how you get other people interested in the animals, and with the enclosures, or make it the enclosure could be like partly artwork or something to attract people, and maybe to not scare people when you're showing off an animal. And so what is your philosophy on getting other people, maybe that aren't reptile people, into this hobby?
Well, to be honest with you, the whole time I was breeding colubrids and rainbow boas. My rainbow boas I've always kept in a naturalistic type setup, because that's what I like. I like to look at that. The colubrids, pretty much like, I don't know, for lack of knowing what to say, more like a sterile aspen bedding, water dish, hide box, heat source over them, heat source under them. And, that's great. I mean, the snakes don't mind. They handle it no problem. But like the monitors, so much more, I make these cages aesthetically nice for several reasons. I love it. And it's like it challenges my creativity. My grandmother was an artist, so I was always into aesthetics and stuff like that. So I would create these little pieces of nature. And like I can remember way back in the day, people are like, well, they know that's a fake plant. I said, yeah, I know they know that's a fake plant. They don't think that light bulb is the sun. And, yeah, I get that. But I like it. People come over and they look at it and they're like, wow, I didn't know that this is how it was to keep reptiles. I'm like, well, yeah, you could do whatever you want. But also as far as the aesthetics go, with veranids, especially back then working with wild caught animals, not all the time they don't like each other. So if you have a big plant or a bush that gives them visual barriers, it gives them a break from each other a little bit. It really helps with their communal living, because while they are communal in the wild, man, they, a couple of leaps and bounds and they're alone again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where in a cage, they're kind of trapped with each other. So it's good to give them, visual barriers for each other. And in the meantime, it looks really nice. And like I said, when people come and they see my cages, they're like, wow, that's so beautiful. I didn't, I go to the zoo and see them. I never seen somebody like this within their house. It's like, I think, especially for ranches, I think everybody should do their best to make it visually appeasing to you and your animals. Of course, they know a fake plant is a fake plant. They know that. But I believe when another peach throat is chasing a female and they get behind that bush, they don't care if it's fake or real. It's, the male can't see the female no more, so she's left alone. Mm-hmm. So, that's just my philosophy on it.
So with your own custom cages, and this is something going back to talking to Ron St. Pierre and his crocodile monitors, just certain things that he had to add as he went, and how he constantly was changing his enclosures to kind of dial them in for what the animals needed. Have you been the same way with some of your stuff where you were unsuccessful breeding certain species and just started making changes so you got to figure it out?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like I say, when I first started off, everything was pretty much, back then it was, I was a Kluber guy. So I had a lot of those, you remember the company Creative Habitats?
Yep.
They had the nice sliding. They were great cages. So what I did was I took two 48s, they had the sliding glass or the screen top on either side. So I took two of the 48 longs and I took, I don't know what it was, maybe a 36, and I turned it upside down and took the two screens off from the middle. And at first I started the peach throats in, a 48 glass, whatever those Creative Habitats are. And I was like, man, this animal, he needs way more. So then I put two 48s next to each other, turned a 36 gallon upside down on top of it, removed the screen so you can go from each cage back and forth. So yeah, after a while, and then, I realized, wow, they could probably really appreciate more height. And then one day, it's like I said, with the TVs and stuff that I used to, dressers, whatever it was, turn into enclosures. I was in the Home Depot one day and I was in the new construction area and I seen the bathtub unit, one-piece bathtub unit. I was like, that's a great cage. I got to get one. So I asked him how much. And of course it was more than I could afford at the time. He said, I don't know. I'll go see if I have any that are chipped. I'm like, well, what if it's chipped? He goes, well, then you get a little cheaper. So I took my boot and I kicked the corner of the one we were looking at. This one's chipped. So he gave me a good price on it. I took it home, and that's how it started. The beginning of my doing really elaborate setups.
How you were scamming people?
Well, not really. I mean, come on. He only worked there.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a Home Depot or Lowe's. It's corporate. We're not going to judge you for it. It's like you were robbing mom and pop shops.
Yeah, no, I would never do that. Yeah. So, but hey, they got me on the hammer, so fuck them.
Yeah, there you go. So here's one thing, and I really think a lot of other people listening right now are going to be the same way as me right now. Since you made the comment about the bathtub setup, or at least that being the start of the beginning of your setups, I've been sitting here in my head working out what I want to do with one myself. And I really love your tip about the garage floor paint. I can't, what is that? Is it an acrylic or is that an oil-based?
It's an epoxy. I believe I think it's oil-based because it's dry lock. Okay, dry lock, not the cement repair stuff with the grit in it. This is a dry lock. I don't know how old it is. It's not that old because I haven't seen it before, only the last few years. It's dry lock garage floor epoxy paint. Like, that epoxy paint, you got to mix two parts and then you put them little speckles in it and make it look pretty. Well, yeah, this is the same stuff minus the two parts. It's all one part ready to go. So that's why I liked it. It was a little cheaper and it was easier to work with. So, yeah, you can get that anywhere. Ace Hardware, anybody. Dry lock, garage floor epoxy paint. And you put like 3 or 4 coats on top of 3/4 inch plywood. Water just beads up and rolls off of it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I never would have thought about that, and I won't say I'm extremely clever, but I'm a fairly clever guy from all the work I've done over the years and different backgrounds I've been a part of. But no, like I said, I mean, the tips you're giving on, just building enclosures and this modern day community. That's not the way I wanted to say it. Fuck, and we're not gonna edit this out either. Um, People are loving these realistic natural enclosures, these bioactives. And people are really enjoying the process of just creating an enclosure for their animal, and that is becoming more popular now than ever before. Which again, I love. I've got a lot of ideas of things I want to do in the future, but I'll be honest, you really should do a video, like a 40-hour video of you building an enclosure, and then put that thing on fast forward and make it like a 15-minute video, and just let people watch the process.
Yep.
You building things at the end, little leaks, you fucking fixing your little leaks along the way. Yep. I think that'd be fucking amazing. I would watch that thing 20 times.
Yeah, you know what? I really would like to do that. And, my kids tell me all the time, Dad, you need a YouTube channel. I'm low tech. I don't know nothing about that stuff. So we're in the process of getting that going. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of video of me building and repairing and, inventing or whatever you call it. But I do have a lot of still stuff that I could put together, and I'm not done yet. I am raising up 2.3 of my baby Mertens, which are going to need a big enclosure, which again is where the wife comes in here.
When you tell her it's to get the kids involved, and you're going to have a camera set on a tripod, and your son is going to have to start it, and every time you go to work, you just start it.
Yep, absolutely. But that's what I want to do. But the next one that I build for these 5 holdbacks, actually, I have 5 right now, but I probably have a couple more that you don't know about.
Hey, bud, she knows. You are not using your inside voice right now, and I've been seeing people in the background this whole time.
Yeah, that's true. Well, she's not in the bed, so she's probably just spying on me, which I wouldn't put it past her. But yeah, I plan on doing a walk-in enclosure for these guys with a big ass pond with a viewing window in it. All rocks. You heard that. All rocks and beautiful landscaping. And lately with the Zoopoxy, I kind of nailed down how to do the iron ore rocky outcroppings of Australia. And the river tank that I did for my display is the first forest type that I did. And man, it came out great. I have a nice tree bark stamp that I used to create logs out of PVC pipe that I bent with a heat gun. And so, yeah, I plan on doing a whole lot more of that because that Zoopoxy is nice. You could scrub it with a brush. You could hit it with a power washer, and it's impervious to all of that. So, yeah, I'm going to be doing some bigger things. And, yeah, I want to do that on a YouTube channel like you had suggested.
Yeah, I think that'd be amazing, honestly. I think that'd be something that I actually watch. And honestly, I don't watch that many videos on YouTube. Not at all. I've never watched one of our podcasts. I don't have that big of an ego. I experienced it one time. I don't need to experience it again. Right. But no, honestly, like me, I think about your channel, and like I said, I think a full-length video, like literally just jammed down into 15 minutes would be entertaining. I would keep it really simple, 2 to 5 minute videos. Hey, here's a product that I just came across today. Here's what I'm doing with it. Give it a shot. Let me know what you think, and just not get, don't bore people. Just right to the point. I love this shit. Look what I just made with it. You guys go ahead and give it a shot too. Let me know what you think. And I think that'd be awesome. I think you would have
I'm for that. Constantly. That's one thing I got to say. I always encourage people to think outside the box, man. Do a little more. It's because the reward in the end is terrific compared to just doing the lowest common denominator stuff. Go above and beyond a little bit, and your animals will love it. They'll thrive much better, and you'll love it because you got something great to look at. And people that come over and look at your stuff, they're just blown away and impressed by it. But I wanted to say something because you had said about the bioactive,
Yeah.
I could think back to the beginning of my days with starting with Varanids. Like, I would go to the show and there'd be a beautiful piece of driftwood, $85. It's like, well, I don't have $85 for a hunk of wood. I'm raising 8 kids. So I would go in the woods and I would find really cool logs and hollow logs and tree branches and vines and all this stuff. And, I used to think, everyone would tell me, well, you're going to get parasites. I'm like, wait a minute, man. These animals that I have are wild caught from New Guinea. Whatever I got in the woods around here in Illinois ain't going to do nothing to these freaking lizards. So I would just, pretty much I'd hose everything down, make sure there was no ants in them. And I'd hose them down and throw them right in the cage. And before too long, I would notice like whatever, my peach throats would take a big old crap on the dirt. And, being lazy, I was just like, get that in the morning. I'd go down in the morning, and I'd see some millipedes or centipedes and some roly-polies walking away from where that pile of crap was. And I was like, wow, this is great. They could crap, and I don't have to clean it. They eat it. And so before bioactive was even a thing, my cages were bioactive. So a lot of this stuff happened just like, like I guess by accident, but it all works. And, now everybody's doing the bioactive soils, which is great. It really is great. Mm-hmm. My enclosures, when you open my enclosures, people are like, man, it doesn't even smell down here. It smells like the wet forest. It actually smells good if you ask me.
Yeah. And so when you were saying that a thick substrate, I was thinking of two things. One, with that whole bioactive idea, I wanted to know how thick of a substrate, but also something that ever since Ron St. Pierre's interview with us, when we were talking, I can't stop. Anytime I think about any lizard now, all I think about is nesting. Like the nesting substrate. Like that's like right away. And it's not just lizards, snakes too and whatever. What do you do for nesting, and how thick of the substrate floor do you use?
Okay, well, I can tell you that's for sure with Varanids, that the deep dirt is not so much about, deep dirt. It's about their nesting options. Because if you get, back in the day, if you got an animal that you happen to get gravid, it was your pair mated and you got babies or you got eggs. Well, the eggs a lot of times were no good, and of course we had to figure out why are these eggs no good, and why was these nested this way, and then it's all because of their choices. If you give them a shallow substrate, it dries out a lot faster, so you're wetting it down more often, so you're getting dry, wet, dry, wet, dry, wet. Just like a saltwater fish tank, the more volume you have, the easier it is to maintain. Mm-hmm. And then you give them options so they can choose. Like in my enclosures, one end of the tub, I keep a cane heat mat pressed up against the side. And what that does is it forces the heat into the dirt, and they can choose temperature and humidity gradient, and they choose where they want to lay their eggs. If you force them, a lot of times back in the days, they would dump their eggs in the water because it was just, a moister place or whatever. But the worst case scenario is you get one that goes egg bound on you, and then you're really kicking yourself in the ass. All that work, and, not only did it not work, for myself personally, I think, wow, I did that. I killed that animal. It's not a good feeling. So it's just options. The more options, the deeper substrate. What I found, my big tubs, those 300-gallon tubs, those are 24 inches deep. So I've never had any problems with that deep. I don't know if they go deeper in the wild. I really couldn't tell you. But for the medium to larger monitors, 24 inches deep is good. And I've actually had my peach throats lay in a, what's that?
when I was thinking like 8 inches, I wasn't thinking 24 inches when I was thinking thick, deep substrate. Now you just like, my mind's like running like crazy right now thinking about this. 24 inches.
Yeah, 24 inches and like, I don't know. I've always been the kind of guy, like when I'm out fishing or whatever, I'll just like, what was that, Braveheart? I'll pick up the dirt and smell it.
Yeah.
And when I got with Karen, her parents own a farm up in Wisconsin. And we were driving around and I'm like, holy shit, look at that dirt. I'm like, hey, stop. So her dad stops and here's me. I'd like maybe the second time I ever met the guy, jump out of the car and I'm like on my knees in this dirt and I'm picking up piles of it and sniffing it in my nose. He's like, oh, what's this guy doing? I'm like, this is perfect dirt. So he had, I don't know, probably about 300 yards of this dirt stashed away on his farm. I took it all. That's all the dirt I'm using now. So
that's so funny.
Yeah. Again, I guess the other really important part I would suggest to people is like a lot of people ask me about filtration for your water, and depending on what species you have, water filtration. Like I said with the Mertens, I knew I was going to keep a large amount of water, and I knew I would have to filter it. But thank God they're not really water poopers, which kind of set me up with another dilemma I had. The nest box that I made, that high land area, I used Zoopoxy over pink insulation, and I made like a land mass on top of that. And they have access to get in through a little hole that underneath it is it's 18 inches of dirt, and that's where they nest. The females will nest in there. And so, okay, great. They're not pooping in the water, but they're pooping on this thing. And, I can't, that's not bioactive on the top of that Zoopoxy. So what I had to do is I made a litter dam around the whole, the perimeter of that top that I built. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And that was a big mayfly or something. He's late. So I had to figure out a way to make that a little easier for myself rather than scraping, taking these things out to my yard and hosing them down. So I put the litter dam around the whole top, and I put some cocoa, those cocoa fibers or whatever it is. Now when they crap in there, I just reach in there with one of them old lady tongs, the grabber things, and pull the crap out and throw it in the garbage, and that's that. But again, for most monitors, I just suggest put a drain on a mortar tub, large mortar tub from Home Depot, and just drain it. Rinse, fill, and drain.
There you go. No, I like that because, we have green anacondas, and, we keep them like a lot of other people do in basic cages. And whenever I look at these things, I'm always thinking about like installing a sink underneath and making that part of the cage, a bathtub so I can drain on the regular. So again, like I said, as we're talking about all these little things and these caging ideas, I'm racking my brain for something I want to do with some of these green anacondas when we start getting them going.
Yeah, well, you might want to look into those. Hagen is the manufacturer, and they're called Laguna tubs. They're great. They're heavy polycarbonate plastic type stuff. You just cut a 2-inch hole in the bottom for a drain. And, I don't care if you fill it up with 300 gallons, whatever it is. Do they poop in the water, those green anacondas?
Oh, yeah, they'll poop in their water.
Well, then what you could always do, as a matter of fact, Brian Barshak, he, his Ivy and that other one in his Reptarium.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen him with the shop vac, and believe me, this is all stuff that I used to do. I seen him with the shop vac. It only takes up so much, and then you got to empty it. It's back and forth. It's stinky. It's a pain in the ass. But a company, a European company, they're in North America now. They're called Owasa. They make a thing called a Pondavac, Pondavac 3. And this thing is, it's a 2-stage pump. It's like a shop vac, but it draws it draws one chamber full, and then it clicks to the second chamber, and while the first chamber is draining, and back and forth, back and forth. So Brian went from all of this, shop vac mess. I told him about it, and he went and got one. And man, oh man, yeah, cleaning that cage is so much easier now. It's because, like I say, the shop vac fills up, you got to drain it. This thing, it fills up one side, and then it drains it as the other side's filling, and it just goes. You can hear it click, and it goes pop, 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 pop. It goes back and forth, and it goes right to the sub pump out the door. No buckets, no messing with nothing. So you might want to look into that too.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to write it down for you, Dave.
I'm sorry. What?
I said I'll have to write it down for you. I'll put it in the description or something for you.
Yeah, that works. I appreciate that.
So that's pretty cool, though. So I know that I kind of mentioned it when you set your phone down. I was talking about some of the other things you do. What other hobbies do you have? Because there's something that you don't know about Dave, but he also fishes pretty a lot, right?
Yeah, and you never meet fishermen anymore. There's like none of us in the world.
Yeah, well, okay, let me tell you a quick little story. I've been fishing my whole life, lake fishing. So my son Dominic, he was 10, and we're at a flea market here, and I always go towards the end because when everybody's packing up, you get the best deals. So I seen the fishing guy, and he's packing up, right? So I go over there. I wasn't looking to buy nothing. I just wanted to see what he had. And he goes, hey, is that your son? I'm like, yeah, that's my son. Well, what's up? He goes, oh, here, give this to him. He gives me a Daiwa bait caster and like a 7-foot rod. I'm like, oh, my son Dominic, he can get mad sometimes. So I'm thinking to myself, great, this guy's going to be bird nesting every cast, and I'm going to hear him yelling and screaming. So I was kind of mad at the guy for giving it to him. So whatever, we set it up. That was he's 16 now, and man, that kid from 100 yards, he could put a lure in a bucket. So
That's awesome.
he stuck it out, and if you know any, I know you know about the bait casters, and how you got to control it with your thumb. It's not really like automatic like a spinning reel or a closed face. But
yeah, let me just say something really quick.
Yeah.
Fuck bait casters.
Yeah,
never will
you,
ever
brother.
fucking use a bait caster. I fucking hate. Only time I use a bait caster is if I'm fishing for catfish. And half the time that's pissing me off. So no, I'm not a bait caster guy, man. It's just not my style.
Yeah, me too. Because I like to enjoy fishing.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
But
nobody's had bait casters, and I'm catching as many fish as they are. So I don't see the big deal in what I use.
And you're not, I got to see my kid over there. He's swearing, 16 years old, cussing and ripping line out of the reel. But he's gotten real good at it. So that's something I wish I could do. But I'm with you on that, Dave. Just give me the spinning reel, something easy. I ain't got to worry about. I catch the same amount of fish, if not more, because it's more versatile.
Yeah. No, couldn't agree more.
I fly fish, actually.
Do
you really fly fish, Ben?
I do, yeah.
Okay, I respect that.
Big props on that.
So when I was probably like 18 or 19 years old, a buddy of mine was like, "Oh, we should do fly fishing." So I was like, "All right." So I go out and I buy up, the whole setup. And he goes, "You gotta practice in your yard." I'm like, "Okay," I doing it. I'm practicing. I'm starting to get a little bit better and better. And the whole idea isn't really to just keep on flinging it back and forth. That's only really just to get your line out. And so every time you do it, that fly dips in the water and it presents itself to the fish. If they don't pick up on it, you just out and in. That's it. Just out and in. And so you just keep doing it, and it's nice, and it's it's real relaxing.
Right. So okay, because I've never been a fly fisherman. So by you casting and then the fly dips in the water and then you pull it out and you cast it, that's almost like a natural behavior of the fly.
Right.
Yeah.
I
So
got you.
people say, "Oh, you can see the fish see the fly flying around." I don't think that's the case at all. It's just when that fly dips in the water and it sits there like it's dead, or a woolly worm or whatever, you pull it back out. So when I was first learning, I'm practicing, and the fall is like the best time to go fishing, like in lake fishing for fly fishing and stuff. And I fling out and I come back and the thing like whirls around. I know you guys have seen videos, and I pick up a leaf. Well, that leaf weighed down the fly enough that it hit me in the back of the head. And it stabbed me, but didn't hook in, thankfully. And I was like, is this really? But yeah, I enjoy it. I don't do it nearly enough. I don't do it.
You know what? I always, admired the people who do that. But again, that's pretty much falls into the baitcaster thing for me, man. If I wanted to work, I'd go to work.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. No, I've never been a fly guy either. I got no rhythm. I can't dance for shit. I don't think I can fly fish, man.
It's if you actually just do it like out doing it and you kind of get the hang of it, you'd really enjoy it.
So the next show, we'll go have a few drinks and we're gonna watch Ben dance, right?
Yeah, that's really it.
Because he's got the rhythm.
Do that.
Yeah, I don't want to see you dance. I just want to see you go on the dance floor and pretend like you're fly fishing the whole time. We're gonna call that dancing.
Yeah, I can do that.
There you go.
Yeah, that's like the
You
spring.
might start a new trend.
Yeah.
We can do
No, that's not it, man. You got to start working on your moves. You're not pulling that out of the bag, man. I want to see the fly fisherman.
I'll definitely have to do that next time. We're going to be going to Arlington. Dave and I.
Yeah, that's just not going to fly in Texas, buddy. We're not doing that down there. That's a northern move.
Yeah,
that's true. That's a good point. Valid point.
When is that, Arlington?
Next week.
Oh, yeah. Wow, yeah. I ain't gonna make that.
Yeah. It's
always next year.
Yeah.
But it's funny. You're talking about kind of hooking yourself. Just like you're saying, I've been fishing since I was 2 years old. And I think if I wasn't a fisherman, I wouldn't even be a reptile guy. I think just being out there just made me love everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I go an entire lifetime without hooking myself. And I think I was smallmouth bass fishing up in Buffalo. I catch a fish. I let it fall out of my hand. And on the way down, the treble hook hooks into my finger. Fish is bouncing on the boat. I'm hitting the ground. Put my pressure on it. I'm freaking the fuck out. Finally get the fish to calm down. Somebody gets the hook out of his mouth. Great. I can't get the hook out of me. I gave up. Emergency room. She goes in the back, gets a pair of pliers, starts yanking on it. Doesn't work. She goes and gets a bigger pair of pliers. Finally gets the thing out of me.
Oh.
Complete fluke it even happened. Now, literally a year to the date, from the 4th of July to the 4th of July, we're going to the Finger Lakes. And it's like 4 in the morning. I'm skipping down the road, my fucking tackle box next to me, all excited about this little trip. And there was a treble hook hanging out of my bag, goes right in my calf.
Oh.
I start screaming. My buddy must know what's happening. He comes over with a pair of pliers, tries to yank it out, yanks so hard he falls on his ass. Goes again, does it again. I'm like, nope, I'm fucking done. Cut the thing. I'm over it. So all day we go fishing. I've got this hook sticking out of my leg. It's bleeding. Finally, like halfway through the day, this guy that I don't even know is like, dude, you are grossing me the fuck out. You need to get that hook out of your fucking leg before it's too late. So I go, it wouldn't come out, so I had to like stab it through another piece of my leg and pull it out that way.
Right.
But I haven't been hooked since, thank God. But yeah, 2 years in a row on the same day, hooked myself, and it was fucking awful.
Wow. You would figure you learned how to get that out after the nurse, right?
No, I'm a stupid piece of shit. Clearly, I don't know how to do things. And my buddy, it was up to him. He had a good grip on it too, man. Like you heard the sound of the pliers plucking off the hook as he's falling backwards in the road trying to get it out of me. But,
so you're trying to get it back out against the barb?
Yeah, well, yeah, that was my only option. It was dark out. I mean, I just figured if we acted fast, it was going to happen. But yeah. And I will say this, after those times, I put a lot of consideration in just fishing with barbless hooks like they do in some tournaments.
Right.
I definitely do feel bad for the fish after a couple of those hooking myself.
Yep. That is crazy. That's a funny story.
Yeah, real fucking funny.
Well, it didn't happen to me, so.
Yeah, that's all that matters, man. As long as you didn't have to deal with it, I'll send you the picture, man. I think I put it on my Instagram, my fishing page, and this hook like jammed into my bone.
Oh, I seen that one that one. What do they call them? The memes. The fish hook under the guy's thumb, and you can see it like under the nail. Oh,
yeah,
that's
fuck
bad.
that. It was a big hook too, man. Like, yeah, no, that's a rough one, but yeah, we're all over, man. So shit, now we're just making people stupid for listening. We always get there after a little while. You've been there, you know what's up.
Yeah, it's
I don't
fun,
know.
but
I
what are
mean, we
you
can
gonna
pick what direction to take this thing in, or we can just say we peaked. I don't know what to do right now.
I didn't have a lot more to ask. I mean, you know, we definitely covered a lot. I did want to bring up the fishing because I think it's a fun conversation, and I'm enjoying this. Like, I really am. I think we're having a good time.
Yeah,
No, I love
too.
this
I
shit,
wasn't
though.
sure how this was going to go, but man, I'm telling you guys, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And, you know, like I said, I really do encourage you on doing your little 5-minute how-to videos, the handyman videos. I think that'd be a great little thing to do. I don't know if anybody else does it, but I'll tell you right now, if you do it, I think you're going to do it better than everyone else. So,
well, yeah, you know, and what I really like, you know, to have people go out and do a little bit above and beyond, especially with varanids. I mean, I'm sure there's other animals that appreciate it, but this Zoopoxy, I'm selling this stuff too. I distribute for them. They're local here in Chicago. And man, if more people would know how easy this stuff is to work with and how it turns out, man, you could come up with, if you got just a little bit of creativity in you and a little bit of vision, you can really turn just even a regular 10-gallon tank on a piece of pink insulation. You can make your own backgrounds. I mean, in any way you want, basking platforms, hides, underground hides. It's limitless.
yeah, I love it, man. And honestly, I think we'll have a future video with you where we're just talking about your hands-on and how you're doing things. Because like I said, everything you said intrigued me today, but everything you do with caging, I think it's very unique. I think it's very good for what we're doing in the industry right now. And I think there's a lot of people that get a kick out of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome.
After all the swearing, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's all part of it, man. You can bleep that out in case kids are watching.
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if I can throw in before we get off that, even if you did a long one, if you ever watch, I've been watching a lot of like table building, like that pocket table building and stuff like that. Those videos are 20 minutes, 30 minutes long, you know, and they take weeks and weeks for guys to build them and whatever. But they turn them into like a 15, 20-minute video.
Right.
Yeah, I think you could knock it out of the park. You do a few of those and they would pay for the table or for the enclosure some of the time on your, if you have people watch.
Yeah. See, I never knew like you could, maybe I'm not even saying it right, be monetized. You can make money on it. I didn't know that. So I guess.
Yeah, we don't know anything about that either because nobody watches our show.
No,
come on, I watch it.
You watch it. That's the main thing.
Yeah, people have been watching, you know, but people listen to it on the other platforms as well. The R&B Reptiles channel is monetized, and we're doing okay and growing. This one, eventually, once it hits like that 1,000 subscriber, you know, mark, then things will take off. I mean, we've hit the watch time hours, like people are watching it, but we just need more people to click that subscribe button. So
I got you.
Then it'll grow.
All right.
Yeah, Mike, don't worry about it. I don't know shit about this either. That's why I do this with Ben, because he takes care of all that for me. I just show up and do the video.
Yeah, he's the tech and you're the personality.
That's really it, man. Hey, don't take that away from Ben. When you see his dance moves on the floor, that guy's got nothing but personality.
I'll be fly fishing.
That's it, man.
The fly fishing, yeah.
But
in a circle.
Yeah, well, don't give it all away yet. I want people to be surprised.
They'll be surprised.
But Ben, you're the one who takes us out, man. Go ahead, knock it out.
All right, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us and hanging out with us. It's been really fun and educational. I mean, I really do enjoy the monitors, and one day, you know, we'll have to come and make the trip out, and maybe at the next Tinley show, maybe we'll come around. You're not far from Tinley, so maybe we can come visit or something like that before. After the show. Yeah, that'd be great, man. So,
well, hey, I wanted to say thanks to you guys too. You're a couple good guys, man. I really appreciate this. I was glad to meet you guys after watching your podcast. It was great.
yeah, no, it's been fun. So I appreciate it. And thanks everybody. And make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe this. Get us to that 1,000 subscriber mark here on YouTube. And if you're just listening, go on YouTube and hit that subscribe anyway.
How close are you? Because don't forget, I got 8 kids, man.
Yeah, get all 8 of them on there.
Yeah,
They'll be all popping. Yeah, you got it.
So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone. And I hope you guys have a good night. And we'll see you on the next one.
You too. Take it easy, fellas.
All right. Thanks.
Bye now.